This is Atlas Launch Control. We're now at a mission elapsed time of 1 hour, 30 minutes, 43 seconds. And all of the activities on board the Cygnus continue to go well in preparation for the solar array deployment. But right now joining us is our Center Director, Bob Cabana, Director of Kennedy Space Center. And I think, first of all, Bob, you got to watch the launch live and up close. What was your thought as it went off?
George. I was going to ask you, do you ever get, feel kind of like secluded in the booth all the time, never getting out to see
You never
live?
get to see a launch.
I know.
I was trying to figure out the last time I actually was outside and saw one that was somehow involved in the countdown for in some way. And but I remember a long time ago, Jim Womack, who was our director of expendable vehicles, way back a long time ago when he retired, and he worked all the way back to Alice in the Mercury days, and he'd never seen a launch. He was always in the blockhouse.
So
when he retired, he said, "This is the first time I've ever seen a launch." When he was
it was an awesome launch. It was just what a beautiful day for a launch, and the atmosphere, everything, it was great. We were over in OSB2 with the VIP guests. I miss sitting on console. I miss having something, being involved and seeing the data
because this is
more
the
real
fun
time.
part, really.
But it was a beautiful launch. The guests loved it. Absolutely special. The first shuttle launch that I saw was mine. I never got to see a shuttle launch before I actually got to launch on the shuttle. At the time, I was the Deputy Chief of Aircraft Operations at the Johnson Space Center. And the Chief of Aircraft Operations, Joel Granny, he always flew over to support the launch at the Cape, and he left me behind to run everything at JSC. And then when I got into training, I didn't have time to get over and actually see a launch. But, I always tell folks, don't take pictures. You got to experience it. It's an emotional thing, and watching it through the viewfinder of your camera, it just doesn't do it justice. You need to feel it, sense it, hear it, experience it. And anytime a rocket ship leaves planet Earth, it's special. And this one, excellent launch today. ULA, another great job with the Atlas V and Orbital ATK, the Cygnus vehicle. We're looking forward to getting the solar arrays out, but performing well, and some really critical supplies for the International Space Station.
Well, we had noticed we had some coverage from the beach, and the Canaveral National Seashore really had a big turnout today. They were able to.
I was talking to somebody, and they said the roads around KSC, it was like during the shuttle days as far as the traffic and everything with the number of people, and that's the kind of excitement that space brings. But you're no stranger to that. So, George, you've been doing this for 36 years, 33 years with NASA, and 3 as a contractor, right?
No, 4 as a contractor.
4 as a contractor.
4 as a contractor,
right.
and
37
32,
years.
Yes, it's 37 years. That's
so
right. So
your first launch was an Atlas off Launch Complex 36, right, that you did commentary on?
I think it was an Intelsat. It goes back far, and I can't quite remember for sure, but I think it was an Atlas off 36A, and I think it was an Intelsat.
And you did all the Hubble servicing missions, right?
I did the Hubble launch plus all 5 servicing missions. So.
And you did the very last shuttle, STS-135 Atlantis.
Correct. Right.
So, I mean, you have had quite a history. And I don't know if folks know, but George is retiring. This is George's last time to actually do launch commentary live on console. And George, I don't have the gift with me now, but I just want to say thank you for all your years of service and the outstanding job that you have done with launch commentary for NASA and our nation. You're absolutely outstanding, George.
Well, I appreciate that. It's so much fun. I mean, and I can't think, when I started out on my career here, I can't really think of very much that I haven't been able to do that I wanted to do, and that's what's really made it great. And it's certainly been fun. But now I've hit the point when you can't even remember what the first launch was. It's back away. I remember my first space shuttle one, but I'm not sure I remember my first.
So that was back in 1986, wasn't it? STS-28?
27. Yeah, I did 27. That was the Department of Defense mission, and put me on that one because you couldn't say anything much anyway, since it's a secret launch. So they knew I wouldn't blow that one. So that was my first one.
So George didn't know I was going to recognize him today, but I could not let this opportunity pass. You've just done an outstanding job, and we're really, really going to miss hearing your golden voice on console during launch, George.
Well, thanks so much, and I'm sure when I'm retired and up in the mountains somewhere, when there's a launch going, it'll be hard not to tune it in some way on satellite radio or something to see it, because
it's kind of in your blood, isn't it?
Well,
it's hard to get rid of it.
You can take the boy out of the launch, but you can't take the launch out of the boy. So that's probably the way I'm going to be after I retire.
I'm with you. I agree.
So yeah, it's certainly fun, and but I think for me the highlight has been when I look at all the different kind of spacecraft missions, payloads that I've had a chance to work. That's really been the highlight for me, and the launch is fantastic, because that's how we get the mission going. But the mission itself, some of these spacecraft, I mean, to be within 5 feet of something that's going to another planet, I mean, to me, that is really exciting.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
I was in the clean room with the Curiosity rover before it launched on an Atlas V to go to Mars, and now that thing's running around on Mars, and to say, hey, that's really cool. I'm with you.
Yeah, and so now we've got Cassini getting ready to re-enter, and I was part of that and up close with the spacecraft, and it just when you think back on the launch, you can definitely remember the launch, but then when it gets to the planet and you think, I was part of
history,
working with the test team to get that ready to go.
So you've seen a lot of change at the Kennedy Space Center in your time that you've been here doing launch commentaries and stuff.
Well, I think for me it was the change in the direction that the shuttle program eventually took, from where we were launching a lot of different things, both our NASA missions that were planetary, things that to commercial flights, launching satellites, all of that kind of thing, and then we reoriented ourselves to constructing the space station. But when you think about it, the history of the Space Shuttle program, it did everything it set out to do. I mean, did it launch as frequently? No. But did it do what the things that we needed to do, that NASA needed to do? It did, and I think there will be whole books written about what shuttle did, just
absolutely.
like there will be whole books written about the way the moon program.
Sure.
I think when you look at the diversity of the missions that shuttle did, and it was the only thing that gave us that kind of capability, and I don't know when we'll ever see that again next. So.
Well, you talk about diversity. One of the things that I say about the space shuttle, one of the most important contributions was it brought diversity to America's space program. If you look at prior to the shuttle, Apollo, Mercury, Gemini, it was white military test pilots with a few scientists thrown in at the end, and the shuttle opened the doors from the 5th percentile female to the 95th percentile male. And that 78 class, that first class of shuttle astronauts, there were men, women, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, military, civilian, and it was opened the door to space for everybody.
Yeah, and our international partners started participating with it. So it's just all kind of carried through to what we're doing now.
So how about the latest direction at KSC with the shuttle retired now as we move into this, public-private partnerships enabling commercial operations, and still working on SLS and Orion to get us beyond planet Earth?
Well, I think my thought on it is the commercial aspect is kind of a logical evolution for us at this point. But if I look, if I was going to be here another 15 years, what would I like to work on? And the space launch system is very attractive, very tantalizing.
We are going. I look at the infrastructure that we're putting in place, and I look at the crawler transporter that has been upgraded to support the heavier weights and everything. I see the high bay. I see the mobile launcher. I look at the launch pad that's going to be complete here in August, and I say, that mobile launcher, that crawler transporter, it's going to roll out that pathway to Pad B. It's going to take us to Mars. That's going to be the beginning of an awesome trip. When it rolls out of the VAB with that rocket on it, that is just amazing to think that we're actually enabling that.
And I kind of experienced that when we were first getting ready for shuttle, and we did a lot of these things to get get the shuttle ready, to get the vehicle assembly building ready. When we had our first rollout, I think it was on the 4th of July, if I'm not mistaken. But at any rate, that it's the same kind of thing we'll go through with Space Launch System. It's, I could start my whole career over again.
I can't wait. I'm with you. I can't wait. I'm not dead yet. I got a few more years left. Now I'm hanging in there. I want to see this.
Yeah. So SLS would be
George,
be fun. So.
Thank you for having me on console with you.
Thank you
It's
very
always
much
a
for coming
pleasure
over.
and an honor. It's one I'm going to remember. I got to speak with the George Diller. Thanks, George.
Thanks so much. So and it's been fun, for this mission, to go out on this one. Working with Orbital ATK is just wonderful because
Excellent.
they are so oriented toward their mindset toward getting the message out that we're trying to convey about what we can do in space and how commercial space can contribute to that.
Agreed.
So they've been wonderful to work through all the way through these ones that they've done down here at the Cape. So I'm glad I'm going out on this one.
I know.
Right. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Bob
George.
Cabana, our Center Director at Kennedy Space Center. And we're now at a mission elapsed time of 1 hour, 41 minutes, 30 seconds. This is Atlas Launch Control. This is Atlas Launch Control. We're now at 1 hour, 47 minutes, 24 seconds into the mission of the CRS-7, and the module on orbit is just about to come out of a planned or expected blackout period, and we'll get some status. But at 100 minutes after launch is when the initial sequence begins for the solar array deployment, in that the mechanism is warmed up. They begin to warm up the mechanism and the displays. So the CRS-7 should be sending us back some data on that reasonably soon, and then approximately the deployment will start at L plus 120 minutes, L plus 2 hours, and take about a half an hour to complete. So right now, as we get our first contact with the Cygnus module, we'll know that some of this activity, which is pre-programmed into it, is getting underway. Meantime, the spacecraft is exactly where it was expected to be, planned to be. And for that reason, the Atlas V really did a very, very accurate job of putting OA7 on the right trajectory toward the International Space Station, which it will rendezvous with on Saturday about 6:05 Eastern Time in the morning. So we're now at 1 hour 48 minutes, now 1 hour 49 minutes into the flight. This is Atlas Launch Control. This is Atlas Launch Control, 1 hour, 53 minutes, 39 seconds into the mission. We'll look briefly at a short video of some of the cargo that's on board the CRS-7 Cygnus module that's headed for the space station.
Components of NASA's newest plant growth chamber, the Advanced Plant Habitat, will be delivered aboard Cygnus. The habitat will integrate new technology to increase overall efficiency, reliability, and robustness of plant growth on the space station. The experiment will build on the success of NASA's Veggie, which was the first fresh food growth system on the station. Cygnus will also deliver a fleet of 66 CubeSats to the space station, including 28 from different universities around the world. They will be launched from the NanoRacks CubeSat deployer on the station. Among the tiny satellites is a science payload known as IceCube, which will provide data to scientists to help them understand ice clouds in their role in climate change. Genes in Space is an annual contest for students in 7th to 12th grades. Managed by the crew on the space station, this year's winning idea for Genes in Space 2 will investigate the dynamics of telomeres, the critical protective caps on the tips of chromosomes, as a way to understand the aging process. Stresses, such as those experienced by astronauts in space, could lead to irregular regulation of telomere length, which has been linked to cardiovascular disease and some cancers. Spacecraft Fire Experiment 3, or Sapphire 3, is a third flame investigation to use empty Cygnus resupply vehicles after they leave the space station and re-enter Earth's atmosphere, providing a unique environment for studying fires and microgravity. The experiment will help our understanding of how fires spread and designing flame-resistant materials to prevent fires in space. The biomolecular sequencer experiment will demonstrate for the first time that DNA sequencing is feasible in an orbiting spacecraft. A permanent DNA sequencer could identify microbes, diagnose diseases, and monitor crew member health. In the future, it could also help detect DNA-based life elsewhere in the solar system.
And we're standing by now for our first contact as the Cygnus module comes out of its communications eclipse and gets some idea as to where it stands in terms of starting the warm-up of the deployment mechanism and the arrays themselves, which will begin at about 1:11 Eastern Time at 2 hours into the mission, and then they will take about 30 minutes to complete the deployment sequence. So at this time, all continuing to go well as we had our first contact with Cygnus that we have available to us through our communications onboard systems. And we're 1 hour, 57 minutes into the flight. This is Atlas Launch Control. This is Atlas Launch Control for 1 hour, 59 minutes into the mission of the CRS-7 spacecraft, which is still in a communications eclipse. It should be coming out in about 6 minutes, but we do have some indication already that the warm-up sequence for the arrays and the mechanism has started, but we'll get some real hard data here very shortly. But at the moment, everything appears to be going exactly as programmed. So at 1 hour and 59 minutes, 35 seconds and counting, we'll be back with more information as soon as we've heard back from Cygnus. This is Atlas Launch Control. This is Atlas Launch Control, 2 hours, 15 minutes into the mission. At this point, our status on the solar array deployment is that both of the arrays are released, but they have not begun to unfurl yet. One of the arrays should be beginning to do that very shortly, but we're going to be losing contact temporarily through the tracking and data relay satellite, and as soon as that comes back, we should have some indication that the unfurling of one of the arrays has started. The release indicates that the arrays are positioned in the warm-up sequence for that went well, and once the arrays finish their warm-up sequence completely, then they will begin to unfurl, and one of those is very close to that. So at this point, the deployment process is beginning. It's in work. They are both out but not unfurled, and we're waiting for the first one to begin unfurling very shortly. So far the data that they've seen indicates the process is going as planned. So we're now at T-minus 16 minutes, 15 seconds into the mission. This is Atlas Launch Control. This is Atlas Launch Control, 2 hours, 20 minutes, 40 seconds into the mission. We're back in contact with the CRS-7 module through the Tracking and Data Relay satellite, and the data we've received indicates that one of the arrays is now fully deployed. So we will be watching for the data indications that the second one has also unfurled, but one of them is out. And at this point, no indication that anything is amiss, so we're just standing by in the natural course of events for the next array to also unfurled. 21 minutes, 20 seconds into the flight. This is Atlas Launch Control. This is Atlas Launch Control, T plus 2 hours, 30 minutes, 23 seconds into the flight of the Cygnus spacecraft. And joining us right now is Frank DeMauro, the Vice President and General Manager for the Advanced Programs Division for Orbital ATK's Space Systems Group at Orbital ATK. And Frank, welcome back. And first of all, I think you have some news to impart.
Yes. We had, after a tremendous launch by the Atlas V rocket to a perfect orbit, we have a very healthy spacecraft, and we just completed the deployment of both solar arrays on the spacecraft. So we'll continue to go through the detailed checkout process, but we have a healthy spacecraft, deployed arrays, full power, and we're ready to get on with the mission.
So they're actually already generating some power at this point.
They are, yep.
So what's next coming up for the Cygnus?
We'll spend the next couple of hours just doing some detailed checkout and telemetry review, make sure all the systems are working as expected, and then we have our first big orbit raising burn in about 3.5 hours from now. So we'll start the trek from the 230-kilometer orbit we're in now to up towards the 400-kilometer space station orbit. And we'll do several burns over the next few days and be there on Saturday morning. Ready to berth.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Frank, thank you very much, and congratulations on a very happy mission. And we're going to have some fun watching all of this over the next couple of months.
Thanks very much, George. Appreciate it.
And unload the module. So we do expect to have a news conference at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time to wrap up our coverage. And at this point, this will conclude our launch coverage of the Cygnus CRS-7 mission, and we'll be back with the post-launch news conference to pass along all of the information from the countdown and launch in the Cygnus at that 2:30 p.m. briefing. So at 2 hours, 32 minutes, 30 seconds, and in mission elapsed time, this is Atlas Launch Control. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, go for main engine start, 1, 0, and liftoff of the Atlas V rocket with Cygnus and the SS John Glenn, extending the research legacy for living and working in space.
Controls look good. Pump speeds and injector pressures look good. HER roll program has begun. Flight rates look good.